What if I told you that there are pieces of America scattered across the globe that nobody talks about? Places where people carry American passports but can't vote in elections. Territories that the United States controls but pretends don't exist when it's time to pay the bills. Paradise Islands that serve Washington's military interests but whose inhabitants are treated like second-class citizens. Lands that send their sons and daughters to die in American wars but have zero say in whether those wars should happen in the first place. We're talking about 5 territories that are technically America, but that the government would prefer you forget about. Places that show up on maps but don't show up in conversations. Regions that bleed red, white, and blue, but don't get to taste the freedom that those colors supposedly represent. And here's the kicker. Almost 4 million people live in these forgotten corners of the empire. That's more than 21 individual states. That's more people than live in Connecticut, Iowa, or Utah. But somehow, they're invisible. Somehow, they don't count. Today, you're going to discover the truth about America's hidden islands before the algorithm decides this video is too politically sensitive for your feed. Before someone realizes we're exposing the forgotten side of the most powerful empire on the planet. Before YouTube's recommendation system buries this under cat videos and mukbangs, go ahead and smash that like button right now, because freedom is cool, but pleasing the algorithm is cooler. Subscribe to the channel. After all, knowledge about historical injustices won't spread itself while you're watching TikTok dances and reaction videos. Hit the bell, be part of the rebellion, or at least part of the notification squad. You know that feeling when you discover your rich friend has 3 vacation homes but never invites you? Or when someone adds you to a WhatsApp group just so you can read the messages, but you can't participate in any decisions? Or when your company says you're part of the family, but when it's time for bonuses and benefits, suddenly you're not on the list? Or how about this? You work the same hours as everyone else, contribute to the same projects, show up to the same meetings, but when promotions come around, you're told, sorry, you're not eligible because of your status. You're good enough to do the work, but not good enough to reap the rewards. Now imagine feeling that not with a friend or a company, but with the actual country where you were born, the nation printed on your birth certificate, the flag you pledged allegiance to as a child. Imagine carrying an American flag, serving in the American military, paying federal American taxes, watching American news, cheering for American athletes at the Olympics, but when it's time to vote for president, sorry, you don't count. When it's time to receive the same social benefits as everyone else? You're outside the coverage zone. When it's time to have senators fight for your community's interests? Tough luck. You're not included in that package. Welcome to the reality of almost 4 million Americans living in the forgotten territories of the United States. Americans who exist in a constitutional gray zone. Americans who are American enough to fight, but not American enough to choose. America loves to sell itself as the land of the free and the home of the brave, the shining city on a hill, the beacon of democracy, the place where everyone has a voice and every vote counts. But there's a truth hidden under the shiny carpet of modern civilization. The country possesses colonial territories in the middle of the 21st century, places they control but don't love, people they use but don't respect, lands they exploit but don't empower. These territories are strategically located, militarily essential, economically convenient, but politically ignored. And the reason you don't hear about them? Because it's uncomfortable, because it contradicts the narrative, because it's easier to pretend they don't exist than to deal with the cognitive dissonance of being a democracy that doesn't grant democratic rights to millions of its own people. Today you're going to meet these ghost islands of the American empire and understand why they're kept purposefully invisible, why they're the asterisk at the bottom of the page that nobody reads, why they're America's worst kept secret. Let's start with the most famous one, Puerto Rico. 3.2 million inhabitants. That's more people than 21 American states, more than Iowa, Nevada, Arkansas, Mississippi, Kansas, New Mexico, Nebraska, West Virginia, Idaho, Hawaii, New Hampshire, Maine, Montana, Rhode Island, Delaware, South Dakota, North Dakota, Alaska, Vermont, and Wyoming combined. A vibrant culture, breathtaking beaches, world-class musicians, athletes, and artists, and an economy that's completely, utterly, devastatingly dependent on Washington. Puerto Rico is like that cousin who lives in your garage, technically part of the family, but can't use the dining room, can't sit at the table during Thanksgiving, can't have an opinion on where the family vacation should be. Puerto Ricans have been American citizens since 1917. Over a century, but they can't vote for president. They serve in the United States Armed Forces. Over 200,000 veterans have served, but they don't have senators or representatives with voting power in Congress. They have one resident commissioner who can talk, but can't vote. Imagine being invited to a meeting just to watch everyone else make decisions about your life. It's like someone saying, you can die for the country, but you can't choose who runs it. Democracy with an asterisk. Freedom sold separately. Citizenship with terms and conditions that nobody reads until it's too late. And here's the cherry on top. Puerto Rico is broke. It owes more than $70 billion in debt. Hurricanes destroy the island regularly. Hurricane Maria in 2017 killed nearly 3,000 people and left the entire island without power for months. But federal aid, it's slow. Sometimes it doesn't arrive at all. Sometimes the president throws paper towels at people like he's shooting free throws and calls it relief. Meanwhile, American corporations exploit tax loopholes there, profit billions, and leave almost nothing behind. They get the benefits of American infrastructure and protection without paying their fair share. They extract wealth and leave poverty. The ugly reality. Puerto Rico is too convenient to be abandoned and too problematic to be fully integrated. So it stays there, in political limbo, neither country nor state. Just useful, just exploitable, just forgotten when it's not profitable. Now let's fly to the Pacific, Guam. An island that looks like a desktop wallpaper, but is actually a military base with beaches wrapped around it. Guam is strategically located between Japan and the Philippines, right in the heart of the Pacific. It's America's first line of defense against any tension with China, North Korea, or any other adversary in the region. On Guam, there are massive military bases, nuclear submarines, strategic bombers, surveillance systems, and enough firepower to start or end a war. The Pentagon doesn't talk much about Guam, but the Pentagon can't live without Guam. It's the unsinkable aircraft carrier, the forward operating base that never sleeps, the military asset that's disguised as a tropical vacation spot. The inhabitants? 170,000 people. The majority are Chamorro, the native people of the island who've been there for 4,000 years. They also are American citizens. They also can't vote for president. They also watch from the sidelines while their interests are completely ignored in Washington. Visual metaphor. Guam is like that essential employee who keeps the company running, but is never invited to important meetings. When the office breaks, he fixes it. When the company wins awards, he's not in the photo. When bonuses are distributed, he gets a thank you card and a pat on the back. And here's the dark twist. Guam is so militarily important that, in case of war, it would be one of the first targets. North Korea has threatened to bomb the island multiple times. Chinese military strategists have published papers about neutralizing Guam in the opening hours of a conflict. The people who live there, they can only hope Washington remembers they exist before someone presses the red button. Imagine living on an island, knowing you're a bullseye, knowing that your home is valuable, not because of who you are, but because of where you are, knowing that your land is more important than your life, and still, no vote, no real representation, no seat at the table where decisions about war and peace are made. The U.S. Virgin Islands are literally the perfect Caribbean. Crystal clear waters, year-round sunshine, luxury resorts, white sand beaches, everything you imagine when you think of tropical vacations. The kind of place that shows up in travel magazines and Instagram influencer feeds. 100,000 inhabitants, American citizens, no presidential vote, no real representation in Congress. Here's the funny part. The Virgin Islands were purchased from Denmark in 1917 for $25 million. That's right, purchased. Like they were a property on a monopoly board. Like they were a used car. Like human beings and their land could be bought and traded between European powers without anyone asking the people who actually lived there. And to this day, they're treated like property, not as an integral part of the country.
They're treated like a vacation rental that you visit twice a year but don't actually care about maintaining. The economy of the islands depends mainly on tourism. American tourists, by the way. But the economic benefits leak back to the mainland. The companies are American. The profits go to American bank accounts. The cruise ships are registered in the U.S. The hotel chains are owned by mainland investors. What stays on the islands? Minimum wage jobs, serving drinks at resorts.
Housekeeping positions, service industry gigs that barely pay rent. Brutal metaphor. It's like owning a 5-star restaurant, but only being allowed to work washing dishes in the kitchen. You see the glamour through the little window, but you never get to sit at the table. You smell the food, but you can't taste it. You create the experience, but you don't get to enjoy it. And when hurricanes hit, and they do regularly, the rebuilding process is slow, underfunded, and painful, because out of sight, out of mind, because it's easier to forget about problems when they're happening on an island nobody talks about. And now we arrive at the territories that even people who study geography forget. American Samoa and the Northern Mariana Islands. American Samoa has 55,000 people. Northern Mariana Islands, 57,000. Combined, they're the size of a medium city, but the difference between them is stark, absurd, and revealing. While the inhabitants of the Northern Mariana Marianas are full American citizens, Samoans are only American nationals. That means they don't have full citizenship. They need to go through a naturalization process, even though they were born on territory controlled by the United States. Even though they're born under the American flag, even though American Samoa has been under U.S. control since 1900. It's like being born in the living room, but the government says, oh, you were actually born in the backyard, so you need a visa to enter the kitchen. And why? Because American Samoa wants to protect its traditions and communal land ownership system, which could be threatened by full constitutional incorporation. It's a complicated situation rooted in wanting to preserve culture. But it creates a class of third-tier Americans, people who serve in the military at higher rates per capita than almost any state, pay federal taxes, carry American passports, but don't have the same rights. Perfect contradiction. The United States preaches equality, but creates categories of citizenship within its own territory. Some Americans are more American than others. Some flags are more real than others. And the Northern Mariana Islands, they're so forgotten that most Americans couldn't point to them on a map if their life depended on it. They're so invisible that even in conversations about forgotten territories, they barely get mentioned, but they're there. 57,000 people living under American control, subject to American laws, paying American taxes, but with no real voice in American politics. Now let's zoom out and look at the pattern. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. All 5 territories, Puerto Rico, Guam, U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, Northern Mariana Islands, have something else in common. They're strategically located. Puerto Rico guards the Caribbean and the approaches to the Panama Canal. Guam dominates the Western Pacific. The Northern Marianas are a stone's throw from potential conflict zones. The Virgin Islands sit at a maritime crossroads. American Samoa controls access routes in the South Pacific. They're all militarily valuable. They're all geographically essential. They're all too useful to give up. But here's what else they have in common. They're poor. Desperately, systematically, structurally poor. Puerto Rico has a poverty rate 3 times higher than Mississippi, the poorest state on the mainland. Guam depends almost entirely on military spending. When the bases close, the economy collapses. The Virgin Islands face recurring economic crises and debt spirals. American Samoa and the Northern Marianas struggle with unemployment, emigration, and lack of economic opportunities. But here's the detail that makes your blood boil. They don't receive the same level of federal funding as states. Programs like Medicaid, Social Security, food assistance, infrastructure investment, they're all cut or capped for territories. Translation: they pay but don't receive. They contribute but aren't rewarded. They're American when it's convenient and forgotten when it's expensive. It's taxation without representation. It's the exact thing America fought a revolution against. It's the principle that's supposed to be sacred. But apparently it only applies to some Americans. Now let's escalate the madness, because it gets worse. So much worse. These territories can't declare bankruptcy the same way cities or states can. When Puerto Rico went broke, it couldn't use Chapter 9 bankruptcy protections. Instead, Congress created a special financial oversight board, appointed, not elected, that has more power than Puerto Rico's own elected government. Imagine that. Your elected representatives pass laws, and then an unelected board from Washington says, actually no, it's democracy theater. It's self-governance as a performance art piece. And climate change. It's hitting these islands harder than almost anywhere else. Rising sea levels threaten to swallow entire communities. Hurricanes are getting stronger and more frequent. But federal disaster relief, it's a fight every single time. It's a political battle. It's contingent on whether Congress feels generous that year. Meanwhile, the mainland gets automatic relief, automatic rebuilding funds, automatic support, because those are real Americans in real states. The territories get thoughts and prayers and paper towels. And here's the most insidious part. The situation is self-perpetuating, because these territories are poor and lack political power. Their best and brightest leave. They move to the mainland for better opportunities. This creates brain drain, economic decline, population loss, which makes the territories even less politically relevant, which makes Congress even less likely to care. It's a death spiral designed into the system. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is messed up, but why should I care? I don't live there. Fair question. Here's why it matters. First, this is a mirror. These territories show you what America really is when the PR campaign ends. They show you that the values we claim to hold, democracy, equality, representation, are negotiable. They're applied selectively. They come with fine print. Second, this is precedent. If the government can do this to millions of American citizens, what makes you think they won't do something similar to you? If rights can be suspended, limited, or ignored for people in territories, what's stopping them from being suspended elsewhere? Third, this is morality. 4 million people are being denied basic democratic rights. Not because they committed crimes, not because they're not citizens, but because they live in the wrong place, because they're inconvenient, because acknowledging them would be politically complicated. And fourth, this is hypocrisy. America lectures other countries about democracy, sanctions nations for human rights violations, invades countries in the name of spreading freedom, but won't grant full democratic rights to millions of its own people. You can't be a beacon of democracy while running a colonial empire. You can't preach equality while creating tiers of citizenship. You can't claim moral authority while practicing systemic disenfranchisement. It doesn't work. The math doesn't math. So here's the truth. America has an empire, small, discreet, carefully hidden in legal gray zones and geographic remoteness, but still an empire. 5 territories that serve Washington's strategic, military, and economic interests, but have no voice in the decisions that shape their lives. And the reason you don't hear about them? Because it's uncomfortable. Because it contradicts the narrative. Because it's easier to pretend they don't exist than to deal with the injustice, because acknowledging them means acknowledging that America isn't what we say it is. It means confronting the gap between myth and reality. It means admitting that freedom and democracy are sometimes just marketing slogans, but now you know, and knowledge is power, or at least it's a reason to share this video before it disappears from your timeline. Before the algorithm decides you'd rather watch someone open Pokemon cards or react to British people trying American snacks. These islands exist. These people exist. Their disenfranchisement exists, and pretending otherwise doesn't make it go away. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the countries America invaded and never apologized for. Click now before I send you to Guam without sunscreen, voting rights, or federal disaster relief. Thanks for watching. And remember, democracy is beautiful, but only when everyone's invited to the party. Freedom rings hollow when millions can't hear it. And empire never ended. It just learned to hide better. Now go, share this, make noise. Be uncomfortable, because comfort is what allows injustice to continue. And hit that subscribe button, because apparently that's how we measure impact now. Not by changing systems, but by growing audiences. Not by fixing problems, but by acknowledging they exist. Welcome to the empire. Population more than you thought. Representation less than you'd hope. Irony off the charts.